Good afternoon. This is Knowledge Time. Welcome, alchemists. Today I'll be reading from the book The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. I am currently in chapter 11, Know Your Limits, the Law of Grandiosity. Part 2, Keys to Human Nature. Let us say that you have a project to realize, or an individual or group of people you wish to persuade to do something. We could describe a realistic attitude toward reaching such goals in the following way. Getting what you want is rarely easy. Success will depend on a lot of effort and some luck. To make your project work, you will probably have to jettison your previous strategy. Circumstances are always changing, and you need to keep an open mind. The people you are trying to reach never respond exactly as you might have imagined or hoped. In fact, people will generally surprise and frustrate you in their reactions. They have their own needs, experiences, and particular psychology that are different from your own. To impress your targets, you will have to focus on them and their spirit. If you fail to accomplish what you want, you will have to examine carefully what you did wrong and strive to learn from the experience. You can think of the project or task ahead of you as a block of marble you must sculpt into something precise and beautiful. The block is much larger than you and the material is quite resistant, but the task is not impossible. With enough effort, focus, and resilience, you can slowly carve it into what you need. You must begin, however, with a proper sense of proportion. Goals are hard to reach. People are resistant, and you have limits to what you can do. With such a realistic attitude, you can summon up the requisite patience and get to work. Imagine, however, that your brain has succumbed to a psychological disease that affects your perception of size and proportion. Instead of seeing the task you are facing as rather large and the material resistant under the influence of this disease, you perceive the block of marble as relatively small and malleable. Losing your sense of proportions, you believe it won't take long to fashion the block into the image you have in your mind of the finished product. You imagine that the people you are trying to reach are not naturally resistant but quite predictable. You know how they'll respond to your great idea. They'll love it. In fact, they need you and your work more than you need them. They should seek you out. The emphasis is not on what you need to do to succeed, but on what you feel you deserve. You can foresee a lot of attention coming your way with this project. But if you fail, other people must be to blame because you have gifts. Your cause is the right one, and only those who are malicious, or envious could stand in your way. We can call this psychological disease grandiosity. Grandiosity. As you feel its effects, the normal realistic proportions are reversed. Yourself becomes larger and greater than anything else around it. That is the lens through which you view the task and the people you need to reach. This is not merely deep narcissism, see chapter 2, in which everything must revolve around you. This is seeing yourself as enlarged, the root of the word grandiosity, meaning big or great, as superior or worthy of not only attention but of being adored. It is a feeling of being not merely human but godlike. You may think of powerful geotistical leaders in the public eye as the ones who contract such a disease, but you would be very wrong in that assumption. Certainly, we find many influential people such as Michael Eisner with high-grade versions of grandiosity, where the attention and accolades they receive create a more intense enlargement of the self. But there is a low-grade, everyday version of the disease that is common to almost all of us because it is a trait embedded in human nature. It stems from our deep need to feel important, esteemed by people, and superior to others in something. You are rarely aware of your own grandiosity because by its nature it alters your perceptions of reality and makes it hard to have an accurate assessment of yourself. And so you are unaware of the problems it might be causing you at this very moment. Your low grade grandiosity will cause you to overestimate your own skills and abilities and to underestimate the obstacles that you face. And so you will take on tasks that are beyond your actual capacity. You will feel certain that people will respond to your idea in a particular way. And when they don't, you will become upset and blame others. You may become restless and suddenly make a career change, not realizing that grandiosity is at the root. Your present work is not confirming your greatness and superiority, because to be truly great would require more years of training and the development of new skills. Better to quit or be lured by the possibilities a new career offers, allowing you to entertain fantasies of greatness. In this way, you never quite master anything. You may have dozens of great ideas that you never attempt to execute because that would cause you to confront the reality of your actual skill level. Without being aware of it, you might become ever so slightly passive. You expect other people to understand you, give you what you want, treat you well, instead of earning their praise and feel entitled to it. In all of these cases, your low grade grandiosity will prevent you from learning from your mistakes and developing yourself because you begin with the assumption that you are already large and great, and it is too difficult to admit otherwise. Your task as a student of human nature is threefold. First, you must understand the phenomena of grandiosity itself, why it is so embedded in human nature, and why you will find many more grandiose people in the world today than ever before. Second, you need to recognize the signs of grandiosity and know how to manage the people who display them. And third, and most important, you must see the signs of the disease in yourself and learn not only how to control your grandiose tendencies, but also how to channel this energy into something productive. Transmutation of energy. That's I feel that one. See Practical Grandiosity on page 315 for more on this. According to the renowned psychoanalyst Heinz Kohut, 1913 to 1981, grandiosity has its roots in the earliest years of our life. In our first months, most of us bonded completely with our mother. We had no sense of a separate identity. We met our every need. We came to believe that the breast that gave us food was actually a part of ourselves. We were omnipotent. All we had to do was feel hungry or feel any need, and the mother was there to meet it, as if we had magical powers to control her. But then slowly, we had to go through a second phase of life in which we were forced to confront the reality. Our mother was a separate being who had other people to attend to. We are not omnipotent, but rather weak, quite small, and dependent. This realization was painful and the source of much of our acting out. We had a deep need to assert ourselves, to show we were not so helpless, and to fantasize about powers we did not possess. Children will often imagine the ability to see through walls, to fly, or to read people's minds, and that is why they are drawn to stories of superheroes. As we get older, we may not be physically small anymore, but our sense of insignificance only gets worse. We come to realize we are one person, not just in a larger family, school, or city, but in an entire globe filled with billions of people. Our lives are relatively short. We have limited skills and brain power. There is so much we cannot control, particularly with our careers and global trends. The idea that we will die and be quickly forgotten, swallowed up in eternity is quite intolerable. We want to feel significant in some way, to protest against our natural smallness, to expand our sense of self. What we experience at the age of 3 or 4 unconsciously haunts us our entire lives. We alternate between moments of sensing our smallness and trying to deny it. This makes us prone to finding ways to imagine our superiority. Some children do not go through that second phase in early childhood, in which they must confront their relative smallness, and these children are more vulnerable to deeper forms of grandiosity later in life. They are the pampered, spoiled ones. The mother and the father continue to make such children feel like they are the center of the universe, shielding them from the pain of confronting the reality. Their every wish becomes a command. If ever attempts are made to instill the slightest amount of discipline, the parents are met with a tantrum. Furthermore, such children come to disdain any form of authority. Compared with themselves and what they can get, the father figure seems rather weak. This early pampering marks them for life. They need to be adored. They become masters at manipulating others to pamper them and shower them with attention. They naturally feel greater than anyone above them. If they have any talent, they might rise quite far, as their sense of being born with a crown on their head becomes a self fulfilling prophecy. Unlike others, they never really alternate between feelings of smallness and greatness. They know only the later. Certainly, Eisner came from such a background, as he had a mother who met his every need, completed his homework for him, and sheltered him from his cold and sometimes cruel father. In the past, we humans were able to channel our grandiose needs into religion. In ancient times, our sense of smallness was not just something bred into us by the many years we spent dependent on our parents. It also came from our weakness in relation to the hostile powers in nature. Gods and spirits represented these elemental powers of nature that dwarfed our own. By worshiping them, we could gain their protection. Connected to something much larger than ourselves, we felt enlarged. After all, the gods or God cared about the fate of our tribe or city. They cared about our individual soul, a sign of our own significance. We did not merely die and disappear. Many centuries later, in a similar manner, we channeled this energy into worshiping leaders who represented a great cause and promoted a future utopia, such as Napoleon Bonaparte and the French Revolution, or Mao Zedong and communism. Today in the Western world, religions and great causes have lost their binding power. We find it hard to believe in them and to satisfy our grandiose energy through identification with a greater power. The need to feel larger and significant, however, does not simply disappear. It is stronger than ever, and absent any other channels. People will tend to direct this energy towards themselves. They will find a way to expand their sense of self to feel great and superior. Although rarely conscious of this, what they are choosing to idealize and worship is the self. Because of this, we find more and more grandiose individuals among us. Other factors have also contributed to increases in grandiosity. First, we find more people who experience pampering attention in their childhood than ever in the past. Feeling like they were once the center of the universe becomes a hard thing to shake. They come to believe that anything they do or produce should be seen as precious and worthy of attention. Second, we find increasing numbers of people who have little or no respect for authority or experts of any kind, no matter the expert's level of training and experience, which they themselves lack. Why should their opinion be any more valid than my own? They might tell themselves, nobody's really that great. People with power are just more privileged. My writing and music are just as legitimate and worthy as anyone else's. Without a sense of anyone rightly being above them and deserving authority, they can position themselves among the highest. Third, technology gives us the impression that everything in life can be as fast and simple as the information we can glean online. It instills the belief that we no longer have to spend years learning a skill. Instead, through a few tricks and with a few hours a week of practice, we can become proficient at anything. Similarly, people believe that their skills can easily be transferred. My ability to write means I can also direct a film. But more than anything, it is social media that spins the grandiosity virus. Through social media, we have almost limitless powers to expand our presence, to create the illusion that we have the attention and even adoration of thousands or millions of people. We can possess the fame and ubiquity of the kings and queens in the past, or even of the gods themselves. With all of these elements combined, it is harder than ever for any of us to maintain a realistic attitude and a proportionate sense of self. And looking at the people around you, you must realize that their grandiosity and yours can come in many different forms. Most commonly, people will try to satisfy the need by gaining social prestige. People can claim they are interested in the work itself or in contributing to humanity, but often deep down, what is really motivating them is the desire to have attention, to have their high self opinion confirmed by others who admire them, to feel powerful and inflated. If they are talented, such types can get the attention they need several years or longer. But inevitably, as in the story of Eisner, their need for accolades will lure them into overreaching. If people are disappointed in their careers, you still believe they are great and unrecognized. They may turn to various compensations, drugs, alcohol, sex, with as many partners as possible, shopping, a superior, mocking attitude, etc. Those with unsatisfied grandiosity will often become filled with maniac energy. One moment telling everyone about the great screenplays they will write or the many women they will seduce, and the next moment falling into depression as reality intrudes. People will People still tend to idealize leaders and worship them, and you must see this as a form of grandiosity. By believing someone else will make everything great, followers can feel something of this greatness. Their minds can soar along with the rhetoric of the leader. They can feel superior to those who are not believers. On a more personal level, people will often idealize those they love, elevating them to God or goddess status, and by extension, feeling some of this power reflected back on them. In the world today, you will also notice the prevalence of negative forms of grandiosity. Many people feel the need to disguise their grandiose urges not only from others but also from themselves. They will frequently make a show of their humility. They are not interested in power or feeling important, or so they say. They are happy with their small lot in life. They do not want a lot of possessions, do not own a car, and disdain status. But you will notice they have a need to display this humility in a public manner. It is grandiose humility, their way to get attention and to feel morally superior. Oh, A variation on this is the grandiose victim. They have suffered a lot and been the victim numerous times. Although they may like to frame it as being simply unlucky and unfortunate, you will notice that they often have a tendency to fall for the worst types in intimate relationships or put themselves in circumstances in which they are certain to fail and suffer. In essence, they are compelled to create the drama that will turn them into a victim. As it turns out, any relationship with them will have to revolve around their needs. They have suffered too much in the past to attend to your needs. They are the center of the universe. Feeling and expressing their misfortune gives them their sense of importance of being superior in suffering. You can measure the levels of grandiosity in people in several simple ways. For instance, notice how people respond to criticism of them or their work. It's normal for any of us to feel defensive and a bit upset when criticized. But some people become enraged and hysterical because we have called into doubt their sense of greatness. You can be sure that such a person has high levels of grandiosity. Similarly, such types might conceal their rage behind a martyred pain expression meant to make you feel guilty. The emphasis is not on the criticism itself and what they need to learn, but on the sense of grievance. If people are successful, notice how they act in more private moments. Are they able to relax and laugh at themselves, letting go of their public mask? Or have they so over identified with their powerful public image that it carries over into their private life? In the later case, they have they have come to believe in their own myth and are in the grip of powerful grandiosity. Grandiose people are generally big talkers. They take credit for anything that is even tangential to their work. They invent past successes. They talk of their prescience, how they foresaw certain trends or predicted certain events, none of which can be verified. All such talk should make you doubly dubious. If people in the public eye suddenly saw something that gets them into trouble for being insensitive, you can ascribe that to their potent grandiosity. They are so attuned to their great opinions that they assume everyone else will interpret them in the right spirit and agree with them. Higher grandiose types generally display low levels of empathy. They are not good listeners. When the attention is not on them, they have a faraway look in their eyes and their fingers twitch with impatience. Only when the spotlight is on them do they become animated. They tend to see people as extensions of themselves, tools to be used in their schemes, sources of attention. Finally, they exhibit nonverbal behavior that can only be described as grandiose. Their gestures are big and dramatic. At a meeting, they take up a lot of personal space. Their voice tends to be louder than others, and they speak at a fast pace, giving no one else time to interrupt. Sounds like Gary V. With those who exhibit moderate amounts of grandiosity, you should be indulgent. Almost all of us alternate between periods in which we feel superior and great, and others in which we come back down to earth. Look for such moments of realism in people as signs of normalcy. But with those self opinion, but with those whose self opinion is so high they cannot allow for any doubts, it is best to avoid relationships or entanglements. In intimate relationships, they will tend to demand adoring one sided attention. If they are employees, business partners, or bosses, they will oversell their skills. Their levels of confidence will distract you from the deficiency in their ideas, work habits, and characters. If you cannot avoid such a relationship, be aware of their tendency to feel certain about the success of their ideas and maintain your skepticism. Look at look at the ideas themselves and don't get caught up in their seductive self-belief. Don't entertain the illusion that you can confront them to try to bring them down to earth. While you may trigger a rage response. And such types happen to be your rivals, consider yourself lucky. They are easy to taunt and bait into overreactions. Casting doubts on their greatness will make them a apoplectic and doubly irrational. Finally, you will need to manage your own grandiose tendencies. Grandiosity has some positive and productive uses. The exuberance and high self belief that come from it can be channeled into your work and help inspire you. See Practical Grandiosity on page 315 for more on this. But in general, it would be best for you to accept your limitations and work with what you have, rather than fantasize about godlike powers you can never attain. The greatest protection you can have against grandiosity is to maintain a realistic attitude. You know what subjects and activities you are naturally attracted to. You cannot be skilled at everything. You need to play to your strengths and not imagine you can be great at whatever you put your mind to. You must have a thorough thorough understanding of your energy levels, of how far you can reasonably push yourself, and of how this changes with age. And you must have a solid grasp on your social position, your allies, the people with whom you have the greatest rapport, the natural audience for your work. You cannot please everyone. This self awareness has a physical component to it that you must be sensitive to. When you are doing activities that mesh with your natural inclinations, you feel ease in the effort. You learn faster. You have more energy and you can withstand the tedium that comes with learning anything important. When you take on too much, more than you can handle, you feel not only exhausted but also irritable and nervous. You are prone to headaches. When you have success in life, you will naturally feel a touch of fear, as if the good fortune could disappear. You sense with this fear the dangers that come from rising too high, almost like vertigo, and feeling too superior. Your anxiety is telling you to come back down to earth. You want to listen to your body as it signals to you when you are working against your strengths. In knowing yourself, you accept your limits. You are simply one person among many in the world, and not naturally superior to anyone. You are not a god or an angel, but a flawed, excuse me, a flawed human like the rest of us. You accept the fact that you cannot control the people around you, and no strategy is ever foolproof. Human nature is too unpredictable. With this self knowledge and acceptance of limits, you will have a sense of proportion. You will search for greatness in your work. And when you feel the pull to think more highly of yourself than is reasonable, this self knowledge will serve as a gravity mechanism, pulling you back down and directing you toward the actions and decisions that will best serve your particular nature. Being realistic and pragmatic is what makes us humans so powerful. It is how we overcame our physical weakness in a hostile environment so many thousands of years ago, and learned to work with others and form powerful communities and tools for survival. Although we have veered away from this pragmatism, as we no longer have to rely on our wits to survive, it is in fact our true nature as the preeminent social animal on the planet. In becoming more realistic, you are simply becoming more human. Okay, in conclusion, pretty much my understanding of what I just read, keys to human. Let me look up this word grandiosity. I don't know if I just want to grandiosity. Let me look it up real quick because that's pretty much it was. I gotta understand what it.
Grandiosity.
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 Grandiosity refers to an unrealistic sense of superiority, a sustained view of oneself as better than others that causes the narcissistic to view others with disdain or as inferior, as well as to sense a uniqueness, the belief that few others have anything in common with oneself and that one can only be understood by. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, what I got from this is, I mean, just knowing. I mean, what's that word again?
Grandiosity.
Grandiosity. Grandiosity is pretty much another word for ego. I mean, that's how I take it. Just learning, just pretty much to me, humble yourself. You know how to humble yourself. You can maneuver. Like in one part, it was saying like he didn't have a car. He's just pretty much humbling himself. He's living in a little apartment. That kind of like, okay, for me, for example, this section relates to my life because currently I'm trying to make a move in California, and as I'm moving in, more people are moving out because of how they're living, and it pretty much I just came in there with a minimalist, just live minimal as possible, take public transportation. Now I've added in Uber to give me, because sometimes I get that itch, or I just got to be in a car. So kind of, but I'm sacrificing now. but pretty much I'm paying for a room, which is out there is $600. So I mean I'm not pretty much I'm the way I'm living in California. I'm relating it. I was former U.S. Army logistics, 92 Yankee, and pretty much I've been deployed in when I first went into the military when I was 18, 19, 20. I was already in that deployment. Like I already got exposure to deployments and tours overseas. So pretty much the way I used to live out there, like bare minimum, I'm doing the same exact out there. But what I've added is pretty much going to the gym and doing a lot more walking. Because I mean, and it's nice because it forces me, like, my health is better. I'm cooking my meals out there, and also um, I don't have I was gonna get a secondhand car, but I just figured um, that money I'll put it into my investments because I got a bunch of investments. I got a stock market portfolio that I'm building. Um, my business, which I will soon be purchasing a semi truck for my logistic business, and then going to school at the university. I'm going to the Academy of Art University, learning to be a filmmaker. So pretty much, and from those skills I learned there, pretty much daily going making videos to incorporate my skills from the school into my YouTube channel. So that's pretty much myself of humbling, finding pretty much the
Grandiosity.
the grandiosity pretty much in me. I pretty much converted it into those small projects, like going to the gym. Those are my new grandiosities that I take from, that are more positive, but they're building on me, and they're not going out towards anybody else or within me. It's another type of, like, because grandiosity is feeling a sense of superiority. So what I'm doing with that energy is I'm converting it and I'm putting into things that, okay, you want to feel superiority, you got to put in the work to feel that. So boom, go to school, feel that. Boom, go to business, feel that. Boom, investments, boom, feel that. Real estate, boom, feel that. Education, boom. So pretty much that energy from the grandiosity, I just distribute it in those areas of my life instead of just feeling like, I gotta fit with people. With that thought in my mind, I don't have that anymore. Every now and then it comes across, but more and more I'm learning to just delete that program out of my mind. So, outro. Subscribe to the channel. Comment any questions you have. Like if the information was inspiring for you, and share this knowledge with other alchemists. Also, follow me on Instagram for more progressive knowledge. My Instagram is Max_Bugatti_8008. I'm all about family first. I'm a global stock investor. I'm a filmmaker. I'm an aerospace botanist. 420. I have a masculine confidence building program, which entails I got a health as wealth, build your business, build a family, grow marijuana, U.S. military veterans only, USA credit. Currently, I'm in Colombia, so Colombian credit that I'm working on. I have 2 credit cards I finally got. It's not impossible. My another theory, going back to the masculine confidence building program. Pretty much, I'm just teaching men how to build natural masculine confidence. So, and these things that I'm learning now, my goal is to have credit in Europe, in China. So pretty much have money, be able to circulate money from the U.S. to South America to Europe, to China, and then I'll add in other countries that I feel that are big on the market. But I'm pretty much hitting up the currencies that the Big Ten pretty much. So I'm at the top right now, but South America, being that it's not that powerful, this is pretty much. I come down to South America, of course, first for my family, and then this is pretty much my time, because in America, the only time I work, I take my days off, because burnout is real in America. A lot of people don't know, but you'll burn out. So what I do is pretty much recouping. So I fly back on the 4th of February to the end of May. That's my spring semester. Then I take the summer off, and then I jump back at it, um, September to end of December. So those are the months that like I'll put in work. I come there, and then my months off when I'm here, I'm recouping. So, and pretty much I've been able to hit the ground running like I've been doing right now. Like I've got this immaculate energy that I've never in my life. I'm just so motivated on top of things like and that comes with the health as wealth. So that's what's building my energy naturally daily for me able to push through. So also I'm using a debt relief program. This is something new. This is part of the masculine confidence building program. Pretty much a lot of people are. This is my first time using it, so I'm gonna shoot pretty much my journey on debt relief. 20. I got 20,000 that I'm pretty much got $20,000 in debt that Freedom Debt Relief is gonna cut it in half, so it's gonna come down to 10,000. They stop the interest, and then their fees is like 4,000, 20% of the debt. So 20,000 times 20%, like they get like 4K. So I'll be paying back 4K. So that's like three years, and I pay like 322 a month. And my first month will be this 1st of February, but I'll probably start putting 400, and then I'll see how I'm looking in California to start putting out 500, to try to knock it out. So that's pretty much my strategy. Networking event. I gotta put that one on there. Yeah, I gotta put networking events. That's pretty much something new that I've been doing. Knowledge time. Pretty much, I'm reading a book. This is knowledge time. Once I'm done with this, I'll pick another book. I'm pretty much fascinated by Robert Greene, so I'll probably do 48 Laws of Power or 33 Strategies of War. But it was because of him that I started to get into reading. Just his style of strategies and mindset. So that's how I got into reading, because I was never a reader. I just recently started reading now. So this is pretty much teaching me how to get pretty much my intelligence, up, so I can be able to speak more clearly. And also under knowledge time, I found cheat sheets for artificial intelligence, neural networks, machine learning, deep learning, big data. So that I'm gonna put that in there. I gotta make sure I put networking events in here. I'll probably put that up right there.